Okay, for this next batch of problems, turn the lamp on so you get a little more light here. For this next batch of problems, you've got to have your calculator. Okay. When you turn it on, my battery's low, I'm going to have to charge it. Go to mode and go down to this one that says radian and degree and make sure it's on degree mode. If you have it on radian mode, you will miss every problem. Make sure it's on degree mode. Okay. Now, we're going to start with problem 17. Let's read the instructions on problem 17. Find the measure of each side indicated. Now let's look back at the previous instruction. The previous instruction said find the value of the trig function. Okay. Find the value of the trig function. Well, now we're finding the measure of a side. And I'm sorry, I'm keeping going back and forth. Keep this in mind right here. If I have an acute angle in one side, I can use sine, cosine, or tangent to find another side. Okay? So let's look at problem number 17. What do I have? I have an acute angle, and I have one side. That note says, if you have an acute angle in one side, I can use sine, cosine, or tangent to find another side. Okay? So let's see which one of the three I need. So look here at the angle and label these two based on what they are in relation to that angle. So this is 69 degrees. I look across there. That one is the opposite. And this one's across from the 90. It must be the hypotenuse. Okay? Opposite and hypotenuse. Look back at your three formulas. On this side, we're only going to use sine, cosine, or tangent because it says if you have an acute angle on one side, use sine, cosine, tangent. So which of these three has opposite and hypotenuse? Well, obviously it's the top one, sine. So I write my formula. Sine of theta equals opposite over hypotenuse. And then I start filling things in. I know theta, it's 69. Now it's not just a number 69, it's the sine of 69. I don't know the opposite, but I know it's called x. I do know the hypotenuse, it's 15. So I wrote the formula, and I figured out which formula by labeling these two. That's the x is the opposite, and the 15 is the hypotenuse. So that was sine. Then I wrote the formula. Then I filled the things in on the formula. 69, x, and 15. How do you solve this for x? You multiply this side by 15. This is a rational equation like we did in the last chapter. Multiply this side by 15. Those 15 cancel. And I get 15 sine of 69 degrees equals x. Now how do I punch that in my calculator? Okay, turn my calculator on. 15 sine of, it's already in degree mode because it'll stay in degree mode until I change it. Oh, I meant to put an extra parenthesis, but it'll do it without it. 14.003. My instructions say round to the nearest tenth, so that'll be 14.0. So x equals 14.0. So the length of this side is 14. Okay. Alright, I want to do another one. I want to do problem number 20. So I got to figure out which of the three I need. So right here's my angle, and I label them. That one's straight across, it's the opposite. This one is straight across from the 90, so it's the hypotenuse. So again, which of the three do I use? Sine. So I write my formula. Now I start filling in. The sine of 45 degrees equals the opposite, which is 14, over the hypotenuse, which I don't know, it's x. Okay. Now, got to get rid of the x in the denominator. So remember in last chapter we put brackets around the whole thing and multiplied by an x? So that's going to be x sine of 45 equals 14. Now to get x by itself, I divide by the sine of 45, divide by the sine of 45, and I get x equals, now let's work it out on my calculator, 14 divided by the sine of 45, 19.79, but if I'm rounding to the nearest tenth, that 9 rounds this up to 19.8. So x equals 19.8. Okay. And I did one more with them in class today. I did problem number 23. So I look at my problem, there's my angle, I start labeling in relation to it. So the x is the opposite, the 9 is the adjacent. So I write the tangent, opposite and adjacent are tangent. Tangent of theta equals opposite divided by adjacent. So I fill in what I know. The tangent of 36 equals opposite, which is x, over adjacent, which is 9. To solve that, I multiply both sides by 9, and I get x equals 9 times tangent of 36. And I'm rounding to the nearest tenth. So I look at the 100th place, that's a 3, that won't make it round up, so it's 6.5. And there's my final answer. So your homework tonight is on CUDA, and it's 2 through 26. And if you have any questions, feel free to call me. Thanks a bunch.